Hello, 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 and welcome to a brand new episode of Three Drams. As always, I am your host, Matt Healy, and I am absolutely delighted to be back again for another episode 32 of Three Drams. As always, a very big thank you to the guys at Irishmalts and Three Drams who put together this fantastic offering of the show. Every month, they bring together three different Irish whiskies that are shipped out, well, individually decanted into the sample bottles that you see in front of you here, and then shipped out all across the globe. And they bring together all the flavor makers and creators to give you guys the opportunity to taste along with us, and also to ask your questions to the people that actually make these whiskeys, which is always fantastic to see. As I said, a very big thank you to the guys at Irishmalts. We are going to be trying a Irishmalts exclusive later on as well, which is the first time on the show, which I'm absolutely delighted about, which is going to be very cool. Of course, before that, we do have Fionn Cox from Element Whiskey back with us. He was with us in December, and he's going to be back with us now again for this episode. Then, of course, we're going to be swiftly moving on to the Fercullen single malt with the fantastic John Cashman also joining us again on the show. And then we will have one of our guests from Two Stacks and the collaboration with Irishmalts. Of course, let us know in the comment section where you're joining us from. Alan, a very big welcome to you from Galway. Kevin, I know you're joining us from Germany all the time, so welcome as well. And then I see Olivia King out in Clare. I'm delighted to see you out in the garden. It is a fantastic evening here in Dublin. Still about 17 or 16 degrees, so it's going to be hopefully a fantastic evening. A few little drams or thashgons along the way, and we'll have a little bit of fun. And as I said, guys, ask questions as they're coming up with the guys, because this is what the show is about. It's about bringing you to the flavor makers and creators. And Martin, a very big welcome to you two coming in from Limerick. So I know you're not here to listen to me rabbit on about how fantastic the guys in Irishmalts are. So I am delighted to be getting right into the thick of it with whiskey number one, Ivor One, Element Laura single malt. I am bringing in the man behind this fantastic looking bottle, Fionn Cox. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, good evening, Matt. Hello to all the viewers. How are you?
It is great to have you back on the show. The last time we spoke, I was wearing a Santa hat. We're now in t-shirts, shorts. Kevin's saying he's in 31-degree weather, but here we are. Whiskey has no timetable or calendar, so welcome back.
Hey, absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, I'm going to bring up, this is Dram Ivor One. As everyone knows, I make sure that we always have a little bit of whiskey in the glass as we kick off. From before we jump into what's in the glass, but I will be nosing it myself. Why don't you tell everyone what Element Whiskey is very quickly? I know you've been on the show before, but give us a rundown of who you are, and then we'll jump right into the whiskey after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Fionn Cox, you said, and I'm the co-founder of Element Irish Whiskey. So what we are is a contemporary and modern Irish whiskey company, and we're hoping to do things a little bit differently, kind of more forward-thinking in regards to kind of new product development. And as you'll see, we've got the Element single malt from the lower series in front of us today. So looking forward to have a taste of it. And what it is, it's an open innovation whiskey. So not to bore you too much in it, but where it kind of came from was that instead of kind of having the traditional approach of new product development, which we kind of look from a kind of top-down innovation, what we actually did for this is we opened it up to the crowd. So the components and the finishes of the whiskey that we have in front of us was actually developed from the input and feedback from consumers, from bartenders, from industry people, as well as some whiskey societies. So we kind of went out and got all the information, and then we ultimately got the components together into the blend. So that's where this particular whiskey blend has come from.
And when you say you're going out to the consumers and getting the feedback, what does that look like in real life terms?
Yes, so we have a grand vision, Matt, where we're going to hopefully have a QR code on a bottle, right? And the idea with this would be that the consumer could scan the QR code, and with kind of 3 touch points, would be able to give some kind of input or feedback into what the development of the whiskey. But as a fella said to me, you need to get out of the womb before you can run. So for this one, what we did is we took a small sample size of 10 people, And we actually we spoke to the consumers. We said, hey, what would you like to see? And based on that, we found they got different whiskies finished in particular different casks. So we had some Madeira, sweet Muscatel, Marsala, and obviously ex-bourbon, which you might get through there. We sent out like 50 ml samples as well as a Google form link. And we actually asked the people to then taste it, give the blind feedback, and tell us, what do they think on the Google form before actually blending their own. So we sent out a pipette and we said, based on your personal preference, would you blend your own and input this into the Google form to see what you think? And ultimately, based on that, then we came up with what we have here in front of us. And I suppose as an example, originally our base single malt was a 3-year-old spirit. And the feedback across the board is that it was kind of lacking that kind of depth and character. So now what we have is the base spirit in the single malt in front of us is actually a 5-year-old. So things like that, as well as finding out which particular finishes we thought matched well. So I think the Madeira and say the sweet Muscatel were kind of came out on top as a good match together, with the Marsala less so. So it was about kind of understanding their views and inputs. And ultimately taking that on board and being integral to the development process. So that's where that came from. And I should say as well, Matt, if you go onto our website, we have a section where if you put in your email address, we're going to run a ballot for the next release, where we'll select consumers at random to be involved and give their input and feedback into the process.
So let me ask you this, playing devil's advocate slightly. Is everyone's opinion as valid as each other, or more valid, or do different tastes come in? And if you ask someone in the US and Japan their thoughts on the same whiskeys, I'm sure their different palate styles will skew against each other. How does that come into your I suppose mathematics in the background?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I suppose that to answer it, absolutely, because I think what we hope to do as a brand is to create an accessible whiskey that kind of suits a variety of palates. It's never going to be a particular really spicy, robust, heavily peated whiskey that 5% of the population might like, our whiskey consumers. We're trying to kind of have it more broader and definitely kind of draw more people into the category, be that kind of younger, or maybe people who traditionally might drink rum or something else, bring them into the whiskey category and have it kind of accessible and smooth in that nature. But I suppose, currently what it looks like is a big data sheet where you kind of go through it and crunch the numbers essentially and find the kind of sweet spot. And of course, you'll always have some outliers in that. But I suppose the ideology behind it is that if you can get a large enough sample size and you can get, various different people with different preferences and different regions, this kind of thing, that you will be able to find the sweet spot in between it that kind of balances out that outlier who, likes a particular thing and that kind of thing. So it's about kind of, as we grow, to try and get more data points involved into it and ultimately, find that sweet spot. But having said that, I think even of the sample size we had for this particular whiskey, did turn out to be a fantastic dram. So it's thumbs up for open innovation so far.
Brilliant. So why don't we stick our noses into this whiskey, and why don't you tell us a little bit about this expression and what casks and I suppose what went into this?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is a 100% single malt Irish whiskey, and all of the components were distilled in Great Northern Distillery. And what we have here is a single malt that spent 80% of it was in ex-bourbon barrels, and then there was a 10% of it that was in Madeira barrels, finished Madeira barrels, I should say, and 10% was finished in sweet Muscatel barrels. So you've got a kind of, a nice kind of blend, a bit of complexity in there, but I think that the flavors kind of, do pull through and bring it on to the, create an experience greater than the sum of our parts, as we like to say. So yeah, and I think, on the nose, definitely getting some of that kind of fresh fruits, kind of like citrus. Definitely for me, it's kind of the toasted oak comes through quite a bit.
I'm going to say sláinte. I'm going to have a little sip here. And of course, if you're joining us along, have a little sip with us if you haven't already.
I think when kind of initially on the tongue, you're getting a little bit more of that kind of, caramelly, kind of darker fruits maybe this time. A little bit of kind of coffee, kind of cafe latte was something that came up quite a bit, and you'll see it on the back of the bottle. And I think it's quite kind of, it's smooth cream on the finish.
Okay, yeah. And there's a lovely kind of mouthfeel, but spice, tart fruits. It's certainly a very interesting whiskey. It has a great nose to it. And I suppose, how did you find working with the likes of Muscatel in that to get that balance of those flavors? I see Alan saying here, lovely creamy mouthfeel to that whiskey.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks, Alan. I suppose to answer your question there, Matt, it was kind of less about the individual whiskey and I suppose how they kind of come together. And ultimately, we put it out to the crowd, so we didn't keep wasn't too complex to the crowd. It was like, here's four different whiskeys. Um, you know, put them together, give us your feedback. What do you think works well? And I suppose the big question is the why. And ultimately, based on that kind of feedback and understanding, different people's insights and uh, you know approaches to it, we were able to come up with something that kind of all matched well together.
Oh, okay, fantastic. And is this going to be a part of a series going forward, or is this going to be a core range item for the time being?
Yes, so this is actually a limited release. So there's currently actually 500 bottles in existence in this batch, and they're all hand numbered and hand bottled. And I suppose the kind of the vision with that was that obviously because we're going with this new open innovation approach to test the water, try it out, see how it goes, kind of gauge feedback on it. But I must say that it's been predominantly ultimately really, really positive so far. From very, very positive feedback. So I think that open innovation will be here to stay, for sure. And then I suppose in regards to the series, it's under what we're calling the lower series. So we have three different series. One is the Fusion series, which was the previous release, the Element Fusion, and that represents the blended category we're going to do. The lower series then is the kind of our take on more traditional whiskies. So be it your single malt or your single pot still, and that's in the lower series. And then we're going to have an X series, which to be decided exactly how that goes. But our kind of vision there is to do some kind of collaborations with like synergistic brands. So some kind of maybe some innovative wine brands. Getting some of their casks and look to kind of innovative by kind of like collaboration. So still plenty of room and a lot more releases to come out over the next few years and months.
Absolutely. And I suppose in terms of the, open innovation is a very unique way of looking at the whiskey industry. How has the reaction been, or I suppose how when you approach your consumer groups of, whatever sizes they may be, do people get it straight away? Do you have kind of a comparison that you can draw upon open innovation to something else, or is it just people understand what's going on?
Yeah, I think the term kind of like crowdsourced kind of hits home a little bit better, and kind of understand what open innovation is. But ultimately, it's just that the concept, the power of more, and the power of the crowd and getting as much input and feedback as possible, is kind of superior than kind of a small team or kind of limited capacity. And not to get too high level, but if you look at obviously it was kind of born out of the tech industry, where it's had huge success. But even it's coming into like Lego. I know use it. The likes of the kind of more coming into the fast moving consumer goods a little bit more. But it's the idea ultimately of being consumer centric and getting your consumers or your ultimately the end people who are using your product are consuming it to be involved. And rather than making a product that I like or that some of the team likes, it's about making a product kind of by the people for the people. That kind of approach.
Fantastic. So this is bottled at 43%, if I'm correct.
43%, yes.
Fantastic. And what's the ORP on this bottle, or on the 500
Um,
bottles?
yes, so there's €65 ORP. It's obviously available on our website, Element Irish Whiskey, as well as irishmalts.com. And it's also available in Ireland in several independent specialty retailers throughout the country. So that's where available.
Fantastic. And are you looking further afield, or I saw online you might be looking towards the US at some point soon?
100%, yes. So definitely exporters in our sites. We've had some good success so far. So we should be in Africa in October, and hopefully we're going to be touching in the US in similar kind of timeframes. and we have a couple of other export markets. There were hopefully Germany, Austria, Poland over the next few months too. But until then, until it touches down, it's still get on our shop. You'll find it, but it will be coming to very soon to some more markets for sure.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, I'm sure the German contingent of those who watch us here at home will be very happy to hear that you will be seeing their shores very shortly. Fionn Cox, thank you so much for bringing us through element lore. Number one, I very much appreciated your time this evening.
Hey, absolutely. Much appreciated, Matt. Hey, enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Well, I am from one fantastic whiskey. We're finding ourselves on way to a second fantastic whiskey, still on the single malt route, but we're going down a different avenue now with the fantastic Fercullen single malt. And I am delighted to be joined by Mr. John Cashman. John, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, Matt. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sitting here now. It's a lovely sunny evening. We have some great whiskeys. I think I know everyone has busy lives, but it's great to take a moment just to admire some of Wicklow's finest whiskey we have here. So I'm hoping you'll be able to take us through. I'm going to grab my glass and my bottle here. Some Wicklow single malt.
Exactly. We're calling this the Spirit of Wicklow. It's the first new single malt whiskey to be fully distilled, exclusively distilled in County Wicklow in well over 100 years, possibly pushing to 200 years. I've done a lot of research into this, and in 1802, Mr. Thomas Sutherland had a distillery in Bray. The next big review of distilleries around Ireland was in 1822, and that distillery had disappeared. Now, speaking to some of our friends at Wicklow Wolf, they informed me that it had actually become a brewery by then. Now, every other review of distilleries throughout Ireland, there was no reference to a distillery in County Wicklow. Go to Alfred Barnard's book in the 1870s or 1880s, whenever it was. Wicklow's not mentioned at all in it. Every other distillery, the 27 other distilleries are. So, then I suppose in the last 10 years, you had the likes of Glendalough getting established, you had ourselves getting established, and now a few even newer distilleries in the past few months and weeks looking to get up and running. So, as far as the Irish industry is concerned, it's an exciting time, but in County Wicklow as well. So we're delighted to be really at the vanguard of that and to be able to bring our own liquid to life, because up to now we had been and we still have the sourced liquid that we purchased in 2017 that Noel Sweeney had made up in Cooley Distillery, and as most people are aware, Noel was our founding master distiller. So we were able to release some of the distillate that Noel had made previously in another distillery, brought it down to Powerscourt, aged it, changed barrels, and ended up releasing like an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 14-year-old, and an 18-year-old. But we were very fortunate to have that liquid to begin with, but it was also a little bit of a curse because that liquid, people can get used to it, and all of a sudden it gets smaller and smaller, and it gets older and older. So in the past year, my main role in the past year has been changing the entire portfolio that we have and moving away from some of those age statements and changing age statements, moving from an 18-year-old to a 21-year-old. I'm discontinuing the 10-year-old single grain. I'm going to be bringing out a 15-year-old grain whiskey later on this year. But at the same time, that liquid that we'd started distilling in 2018 was maturing, and it was coming to life. And last time I was on the show, we were talking about Fercullen Falls, I think, which was, our blended whiskey, 50% malt, 50% grain, a bottle of 43%, some of the first distillate to come out of County Wicklow, in that 100 years or almost 200 years. So and the reason we had that Fercullen Falls at 50% malt was to give people a little flavor of what was coming down the line. We have primarily been producing malt whiskey for the past 5 years now. So always with an aim to bringing out our own single malt whiskey. And look, that's what we have here, Fercullen single malt.
Exactly. I'm going to pull the bottle back up just so people can have a larger look at it here. Obviously, the recognizable Fercullen label with the peaks in the background. Why don't you bring us through I suppose the cask regimen on this? What are we maturing this malt in?
This is all first fill ex bourbon. It's one of the things that I suppose I learned from Noel, having worked with him for so long up in Cooley Distillery and continued on in Powerscourt, is the use of bourbon barrel in initial aging of Irish whiskey. Irish whiskey, is delicate, especially triple distilled malt whiskey is very fruity, very delicate. Our distillate tends to have all those green fruits, pears, apples, touch of citrus, things like that going on with it. And putting it into ex-bourbon barrels really allows the spirit itself to shine. If that delicate spirit was put straight away into, heavier, maybe fortified wine barrels or other types of wine barrels, it will take away, I think, from the essence of the spirit itself. So when we were looking to come up with this whiskey, very deliberately decided to go down the ex-bourbon barrel route. This is all liquid that was laid down between, I think October to December 2018. And then we launched it in April of this year. So it's 4 and a bit years old, so 4 years of age. We could have released a 3, just wasn't prepared to do it yet. Thought it needed that little bit extra time. And what we were really looking for was some of that, some of those toffee notes, some of those caramel notes, which I think are quite evident when you pick it up and stick your nose into it straight away. You're picking up the toffee and that. And that's, the char in those bourbon barrels. Generally, we go for barrels that have a level 4 or level 5 char, so very much the alligator char. The heavier char will bring out more of those caramel, more of those burnt sugars, brown sugar type flavors, because the sugars in the wood have been caramelized. So that's one of the things we're looking for, and that's very much evident there in the nose. And then delve a little bit deeper and sort of layers of it. You're picking up that green fruit that I was speaking about earlier. I think the old pear drops, the old hard pear drop sweets are there. Now, Paul Corbett, when he was messing around with this and coming up with the flavor profile, it said it brought him back to his grandmother's kitchen. And I was like, wow, what was going on then? He said every weekend his granny would make apple tarts. And he says that's what he was getting from this. It was that sort of baked apple. He was getting pastry crust. He was getting biscuit, maybe sort of digestive or pizza crust. Some of those elements coming through on it. So I thought that was quite nice when you're able to come up with a tasting note. If anything come up with a tasting note that brings you back a memory, and it is very subjective like that. And this absolutely brought Paul back to his grandmother's kitchen and her apple tarts, which I thought was lovely.
Absolutely. Well, let me stick my nose into this one more time and take a little sip. So I'm going to say sláinte.
Sláinte. So it's this really is the starting point for us with the release of this single malt and the spirit of Wicklow and getting it out there. And in the next few weeks, next week actually, you're going to see the second of our own liquid coming out, and that will be the final of the estate series, so the estate series number 3. So sign me up for another one of these shows in a few months and we'll talk to estate series 3. But estate series 3 is obviously the first estate series was the grain whiskey finished in Amarone. The second one was my blend of malt whiskey finished in Amarone blended with 11-year-old grain whiskey. And this final of the estate series is all our own single malt, but we're keeping that Amarone influence. So some of it has been fully matured in Amarone, and then we're blending that with some of our malt that is fully matured in bourbon barrels. So it's a next level up, a next step up in flavor profile and complexity from this malt. And this malt is very much a work in progress, I'd like to say. I think at 4 years of age, it is very flavorsome, very complex. I think it has a good texture, a good mouthfeel, which I think is very important for a whiskey. It's not just the nose and the finish and the taste. I think how it actually feels in your mouth is equally important. And this certainly has that mouthfeel. It's got quite a lot of viscosity. It's quite that word I love using, voluptuous. It's got this voluptuous mouthfeel. And then a nice, the finish isn't overly long. It is a 4-year-old whiskey after all, but it's a pleasant spice. I sort of say sometimes think of grabbing a Malteser and you cut it down the middle and you scoop out that honeycomb middle in the Malteser. There's a little, that maltiness comes through, but also the sweetness, the honeyed sweetness, that toffee element that is coming through from those heavy tar barrels. So, I'm really happy the way this is finished, but by no means do I think it is the finished article. I think this is batch one, and as it ages, we will be incorporating some older liquids into it, and I'd like to see this finish up somewhere between 4 to 6 years of age as a finished product. I think then you'll really get the full extent of that maturation. But look, we launched it. When did we launch it? About 6 weeks ago. €55 RRP. It is the first 6,000 bottles that we launched were individually numbered. The next batch is actually returning to our warehouse right now to be to go on out. Now it won't have any numbering on it, but it'll be same price, €55. That's where we see this sitting, and we think it's quite an honest price point for a 4-year-old single malt, and we're happy to be able to do that. Make it affordable, make it drinkable, make people want to purchase again and again. And that's been, you know, my career. That's what I've always done with a lot of different whiskies. Make them affordable and make them drinkable. You know. So look, really happy with this. The label design, I think, working with Trinity Brands, you know, it really came out. It has that more contemporary look and feel. Again, a deliberate decision, because up to now, all of our aged whiskies are very standard type label bottle. You could put a Scottish name on it and it'll look the same. So we want this recognition, as you said, have the Sugarloaf Mountain there, have our brand on it. But this looks different. So why is it different? Well, it's our own liquid, you know. So it is, you know, I hope people like it. It's so far, response has been excellent. It's available in Irishmalts.com, available in all good independents. It is being exported to just about all of our export markets. So it's in Germany with irishwhiskies.de. It's available throughout the US with our importer Zamora. There's a shipment going over to South Korea. There's a shipment going to China. It's going to France, to BBC Spirits in France. So this is going to be available in all the sort of 28 markets that we're in worldwide over the next few weeks. So yeah, I hope people like it.
Fantastic. I'm already seeing some great comments in the comment section talking about how beautiful, and the thumbs up from Alan in particular. There's a fantastic nose on it. It's it very much just jumps out of the glass, and that bourbon influence is fresh, it's fruity, it's vibrant. I actually thought it had quite a long kind of prickle on the tongue as it came to the finish as well. Made a very interesting sip. Going forward, I suppose Paul and yourself have, I suppose, future plans for the distillery and the spirit. Is Amarone one of the core cast types you'll be working with, or is that just for this select series? Is there something else that you have as a core cast?
Well, we have been getting good response from Amarone, and I think we've put ourselves into a little bit of a niche area with Amarone, so it is something we will be returning to from time and time again. But you know, Paul is quite experimental by nature, and so we certainly have a lot of other things coming down the line as well. Paul has been doing some amazing mash bills with pot still, introducing different types of malts, different types of yeasts. Remember, he started off as a brewer, so he's bringing in some of those craft brewing yeasts into play as well. The other day, I went into the distillery and it just smelled of bananas. I said, Jesus, Paul, what the hell are you doing? You know, and it was like he's using like some type of a banana yeast, you know. But he also has a great plan, which you know, we're just at this stage whereby we want to try to get our own yeast strain. So if you think about it, think of the Powerscourt estate. We have one of the most beautiful gardens in the world right next to us, and this garden full of bees, and we're trying to get a yeast strain from the garden, from the estate itself, propagate that yeast strain, and then have our own yeast that maybe we can have a true single estate release, because we also grow barley on the estate. We can get that malted if we have our own yeast strain. I have the head gardener absolutely tormented right now. Any oak tree that looks a little bit like it could be a little bit dodgy, I'm saying to him, can I have that one? You know, because you need a few years for it to dry out in order to turn it into a barrel. But one of my dreams would be to have our own barley, have our own yeast strain, you know, our own water, and our own and the whiskey matured in our own wood from the estate. I'm not sure, but it'd certainly be a first for Ireland, if not the world, you know, to have all of that all into one place.
Absolutely. It sounds like there's a lot of innovation going on in Powerscourt. For those who want to visit, I know you have a fantastic distillery that people can drop down, and there's also a fantastic I suppose coffee shop area along with your gift store. So can you give us a little plug on that for those who want to visit?
Yeah, so our visitor center is open 7 days a week throughout the summer months from 10 a.m. onwards. We have different tours throughout the day. They can be pre-booked online on www.powerscourtdistillery.com. We have, of course, your standard whiskey tasting tour, which will end in a few drams afterwards, or you can go for the food pairing tour. It's an area that we've really advanced as far as the industry is concerned. Santina Kennedy, who works with us, has revolutionized the way food pairing works. She's very much looking on local produce. Everything is grown locally. Everything is relatively is fully sustainable growth. Organic, and just these amazing little flavor profiles, all paired with our whiskies. So there's a variety of different things you can do in the visitor center. We even rent it out for day 2s of weddings or day 1s of weddings, whatever you want. We have the function rooms, a fully functional bar upstairs, different tasting rooms, and as you said, the coffee shop area, or the whiskey lounge as we call it now, because we're doing cocktails and we're doing samplings out of there, and a shop. And we're happy to support local. We're proud to be part of Wicklow Naturally, the food and drink network of County Wicklow, and so we'll support a lot of local producers, including the amazing local breweries like Wicklow Wolf or O'Brother, or the Wicklow Brewery down in Mickey Finn's and Red Cross. So we're happy to help out wherever we can.
Oh, fantastic! I see Martin Purcell saying in the comments he's going to be in Paris Square on Sunday, and he's going to pick up another bottle of this. It'll be on the list as he goes through. So,
good man. Thanks, Martin.
From the source, you can't get closer to a production site than the visitor center beside the distillery.
You'll definitely still be getting a numbered bottle if you get it from us from there. Might even be a loaned bottle. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, absolutely fantastic. Well, John, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Fercullen single malt, 46% ABV, bourbon matured from the Paris Court Distillery, and 55 euro is the recommended retail price. That's correct, John?
That is correct. That's what you'll get it in all the good shops, and direct from us and from Irishmalts.com. 55 euro, and as I said, it'll be available certainly in all our international markets over the next few weeks and months.
Absolutely fantastic. I know you have kids at sports events to go wrangle, so thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. All right, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, well, we've had 2 fantastic whiskeys on the show already. It is now time to welcome our 3rd guest to the show this evening. We have Shane McCarthy from 2 Stacks Irish Whiskey, and I'm going to welcome you to the show right now. Shane, how are you doing?
Good, Matt. Good to see you.
Yourself as well. What is going on?
Yeah, we've been very busy as always, but I just remember we had this on tonight. We're actually doing, at the moment, we're kind of opening up for tours at 2 Stacks. So it's been back to back the last couple of weeks, just getting the new blending experience up and running. But yeah, all's good.
Well, hang on. Before we go anywhere else, tell us about this. What's going on in the 2 Stacks? I was only up with Liam, your business partner, very recently, having a little poke about, unofficially, not on any tour, but just to have a look at the facility. But tell us about what if people come to you in a more organized fashion, what should they expect?
That's it, yeah. So I suppose a lot of people have been dropping in off the motorway. We're just on the M1. And yeah, we've been very obliged to show them around and, give them a bit of a tasting. But our vision was a lot different. We've been in the new bond and blending space for over a year, and we have the top container as a real emphasis on the art of blending. Everyone talks about distilling. For people who don't know, myself and Liam are also co-founders of Cologne. So we do have a distillery, but our whole ethos and emphasis is on the art of blending and bonding, and what you can do with that and where you can move in that direction, especially in experimentation. And also, I know kind of words like innovation have been thrown around a lot tonight. But there is, I suppose, in the world of Irish whiskey, the category, the industry, we've been in this, I suppose, sector for over 8 years. Matt, you've probably been along the journey with us more so than most people. We've moved from everything from craft beer and Irish cream into Irish whiskey. And I think, we've grown up with the industry. We know the industry. We know the people. We know a lot about, I suppose, what's happening. So for us, it was a natural evolution into becoming an independent bottler. So with Two Stacks, we're going to really emphasize on the art of blending. People can come in and actually make their own blends. So we'll kind of give it a little bit of an education on the different distillates, everything from pot stills and malts to grain, and people can play around the same way, that we've come up with their own blends, and they can take it away with them, while also getting a bit of a Two Stacks experience. And I think the biggest flexibility, certainly for us as a bonder, is the amount of releases. We're just over 2.5 years old, I think, and we've had over 30 releases. So I think with that alone, the industry itself has moved in a very different direction. Being a bonder blender, you kind of have the nice side of being able to cherry pick what we believe is some of the best distillates coming to the market. And I know every distillery isn't open to giving their distillate. You have to have that kind of integrity, and they have to trust what you're doing with their liquid. But for us, I suppose the biggest thing that excites us outside of G&D liquid is the next chapter. And I know you yourself, Matt, worked very closely on the vintage mash bills, which we were, from there at the start. And I think that chapter for us, I know it's single malts tonight, but certainly our kind of the biggest thing that excites us is probably the pot still category of Irish whiskey and peated pot still, alongside what's been done with single malt. And it's probably what Irish whiskey has in terms of versus other world whiskies. We've got pot still to ourselves, but we also have the ability to do the different categories in a very high quality way. So blending in itself can become, and I think is going in that direction. So there's a lot of exciting independent bottlers coming along, like Elements tonight, and a lot of the new distilleries have been doing independent bottling for a long time. So I think for us, it's taking that next step and really pushing the boundaries. I know, again, not to use buzzwords and marketing words, for us, it's a lot of execution and putting it out to the market. And I think it's been tried and tested. And, the kind of success speaks for itself, where Two Stacks is now available in well over 40 markets around the world, which most of them have been organic. It hasn't actually been sought out. So people have come looking for what we've been doing, and what we've been kind of pushing out there in terms of what I might say is the next chapter of Irish whiskey. There is a lot of heritage there, but I think there's a new direction as well in what's coming. So with the double distilled single malt, this I suppose was handpicked from Lavinia. I hope she is on here tonight. So again, we tend to take people in-house, and we go through a lot of our barrels that are aging or maturing in the warehouse. And we'll give some recommendations, but with this Irishmalts single cask, Lavinia, I think knows 4 or 5 different casks, and this is the one that you went for. And I suppose, yourself, Matt, sweetness and kind of PX and sherry are a big favorite for a lot of people. So it ticks a lot of boxes.
I love working with PX.
Yeah, like it does. There's a reason that it's the main cask used, between that and bourbon. People certainly, and it gives a good starting point, the same way John was saying, bourbon kind of will give you that starting element into the distillate. But I do think there is another element to Irish whiskey where it's very distillate forward, and the cask doesn't need to do all the work. Would probably be more the ethos that we're going in, rather than, giving it another 10, 15, 20 years. As you see from most Two Stacks, it's non-age statement. It's all about whiskey forward quality and flavor. So with the Irishmalts release, I suppose the double distilled distillation, it's Great Northern Distillery. And again, it's been used in a lot of different bottlings. Double distillation is going to just give you that extra layer of fruitiness and that extra kind of fruity esters coming through on the double distillation. And then you've got the PX. So it's got a big PX hit on the nose.
Shane, before you go any further, I've 2 people asking in the comment section, what is PX? So So you and I are
sure.
jargon. Yeah,
It's sorry, guys. So I suppose it's widely used. You might see it used widely. I think with a lot of brands, and it's a sherry cask. So you get that real sweetness, and coming back to, I think a lot of the time when I look at the whole distillery world, and even from the brewing world, taste profile is like cooking, and the sweetness we tend to enjoy sweetness when we eat or drink something. So this sherry element really, I think, takes away from a lot of the kind of perhaps alcohol sometimes, and then you get the kind of mouthfeel and the kind of fruity ester. So you have the nose, the palate, and the finish, but the mouthfeel is quite important as well when you kind of sit on a whiskey and you let it rest on your palate. And with this one, it was one of our, I suppose it was one of our first PX finishes. A lot of our sweetness we tend to do with fruit brandies, but this PX has a big banging sweet nose on it, and then you just get that kind of double distilled single malt with a nice sweet finish. I wouldn't say it's incredibly long. It's a long finish, but not like a lot of times when we use peated malts, it gives a much longer finish into the malt. But this one is just a nice chewy, sweet whiskey, and really hits the palate if that's what you're looking for in a whiskey.
Exactly. Well, Martin Purse is saying there's a lovely nose to this. I have to agree, but I'm gonna say sláinte. I'm gonna cheers. I'm gonna have a little sup here. But Gavin McCuster's wondering, is this a limited edition? Now, this is a Two Stacks Irish Malts collaboration, but how limited?
Yeah, I think when we released it, it went into 250 liters, so there was about 350 or maybe a little bit less bottles. There's about 100 left. So we have got a little bit left in Irish Malts. It was only released last month or so, or 6 weeks ago. So it is a limited release, single cask. We basically took the single malt, aged it for, I think, 8 months in the PX. And you just get that lovely sweet PX flavor on it. And there is a lot of beautiful PX single malts in the market. There's brands doing incredible sherry finishes at the moment. So for us, it was nice to kind of give a kind of entry level. I would say, it's not like your 20-year-old, 25-year-old, but for PX, you can, I think the bottle's around £75 or £70. So it's quite accessible as well in terms of getting that kind of PX quality hit.
I always try these blind. I don't try them before I jump on. I don't know if anyone caught my face after I tried this. I sat with it for a second and had a bit of a whoa moment. The PX ties so nicely in with the double distilled, kind of like that malt, or kind of more earthen tones than like a triple distilled malt. And that has on the palate a little bite point between the PX and the distillate itself. And just that moment, that is fantastic. I really enjoyed that. And from a professional point of view, I've never put double distilled malt into PX. I've always done.
And that was it. It was that kind of, again, putting the double distillation to give that extra character within the distillate. But again, we're most of the time we're our own worst critics, and between the three of us, you were like, hey, you got the dog, awesome. I think did you get your pup at the same time that I did? Or she 3?
Maybe. It was 3. Yeah. Sorry. She was annoying me here, so I just said I'd pick her up. But quite a number of people came up to me at Whiskey Live and asked if she had died because I hadn't brought her on 3 Drams in a while. And I said no. I said no. She's usually just playing in the other room. So she's here. She's alive. She's very healthy. She's fun.
But I suppose, Matt, for us, we the big thing about working with Irish Malts is, it goes direct on the e-commerce. So you do get a really good price point where it doesn't go through a couple of different hands. So I think if we had to release this through the usual networks, it would have been well over £100 for this type of release. And it's one of the oldest single malts coming out of Great Northern at the moment. It was close to 7-year-old. And again, not to hone in on the age statement, obviously you do get more of that cask influence, but I think the PX really takes its own in this one. And as I say, we kind of between ourselves, we're like, this could easily sit for another 2-3 years, and you just get more of that really sweet element, kind of fruit and opal fruits coming through in the sweetness of the PX. But we're really happy with this one, and well done to Lavinia as well for choosing this as one of their first single casks for Irish malts.
Kira, I don't know if you saw the comment. Kira's saying that Lavinia is celebrating her birthday this evening, so Kira is in from the Irishmalts 3 Drams team.
Apparently, she did. She's incredible. Very, very, very good at what she does, Lavinia. And I think we sent the cast down as well, so she might have it as furniture tonight when she gets home after her birthday.
Exactly. Dermot wants to know if the dog drinks whiskey because she'd have a good analyzing nose. The dog doesn't. She might try to poke her nose into a glass, but she's not got any yet, at least not intentionally. So Shane, what? So this retails for, you said around £70. It's about 50.
Yeah, £70. So pretty recent because it's cast strength as well. The usual. It's not cut, non-chill filtered, straight from the casks. So around £70, and there's about 350 bottles. I think there's about 100 left. So yeah, you can only get it from Irishmalts as well.
Yep.
So yeah, it's one of our. I think it was our first single cask of 2023.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I am very much enjoying this here. In as you mentioned at the start, that we have that we've been working together in different formats over the years. Back when you were making beer with the first when you downstream the first I'm trying to think of the name.
I heard Finn talking about QR codes and consumer, and I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, so that's
first blockchain beer was yourself.
We had the first blockchain beer, and not to, I suppose we don't really jump at the whole like first of everything or trying to be, but I think we've certainly proved putting things to market, even the first Irish whiskey in a can and whatnot. For us, a lot of it just makes sense in how you come to market, and being so active in the market and kind of being so passionate about what we do. I think when we come to the market, we love everything that we do from brewing and distilling. That we won't put it out unless we love it ourselves. So downstream was one of the kind of first beer iterations, and then we had the first cut 5-part complex blend. We had the blender's cut that had the big cask strength element, and then we started getting into the fruit brandy series, which has really taken off for us. And then I suppose now we've really emphasized on where you can bring bond in an Irish whiskey. So we're not just aging cask, but we're getting in and commissioning our own mash bills. So we've went into Boan Distillery, Adara Distillery, and we've taken a lot of, I wouldn't say a risk, but capital commitments to the new chapter of Irish whiskey, where we believe these guys are going to be the new chapter of Irish whiskey, and we want to both go along the journey, but also give our own iterations on these expressions and champion what we believe is a true taste of Ireland. There is a lot of traditional Irish whiskies out there, but there's a lot more to come, and that's what excites me the most, which we hope will excite consumers on their journey of Irish whiskey.
Exactly. And I do love the fact that you are going out and creating your own mash bills with these distilleries to make, that you will have releases coming down the line that won't be available anywhere else because you commission them yourselves, and they are bespoke and unique to yourselves. You also mentioned the Vintage Mash Bills campaign, and I know you had a big look in there. I don't remember exactly how many casks
December. We've got
December.
Class 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I remember I said, sign me up, Matt. As soon as I heard about you and Finn working on this, I was very quick to jump. But very excited about that. I think no one really knows what they'll do with the first releases, and some people there only was 100 casks, I believe, in total. So we have 5 of them in terms of what we do with them. We will definitely release one next year. Which one that is, we'll see. But we took a variation of the different mash bills, which we thought was kind of the darling mash bills, and it's really exciting. It really is. And I know Finnon's got his next book coming out pretty soon as well, so it might tie in very nicely with a lot of that kind of history of Irish whiskey.
Exactly. And how are they tasting?
It's so broad, and again, and just to come back to why we're so excited about this this kind of direction Irish whiskey's going in. For us, like mixed mash bills where it's at. And again, I know John was saying there, brewing and getting your own yeast. You know, you just need to look at Cologne 3 to 4 year old whiskey. Boan as well just released their Solstice Volume 2 yesterday. That is the identity that excites us the most. You know, yes, there is plenty of single malt and there's plenty of other things going on, but that character has been unseen, like truly unseen, for well over a century, more so. And there's not enough distilleries doing it, in my opinion. Yeah. And peat, we love peat. There's not enough peat. If we can get more peated malt, we'll buy it.
Exactly. Well, Shane, thank you so much for bringing us the Two Stacks Irishmalts collaboration. I very much appreciate your time. For anyone who wants to check out Two Stacks online, where should they be looking?
Irishmalts on twostacks.com. You can get a kind of range of our whiskies on twostackswhiskey.com, but Irishmalts also has the full range on there as well.
Fantastic. Well, Shane, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you for taking us through this lovely whiskey. And to everyone who's been watching at home or is watching after the fact, we very much thank you. And of course, the guys at Irishmalts and 3 Drams, because without them and all the work they do in the background, we don't get to enjoy all of these whiskeys and talk to wonderful people like Fionn and Shane, and of course, John Cashman. Before we go, a last question has come in from John Fleming. When is Two Stacks Cream in a Can ready?
When John comes up and helps us in the cannon line. September. We're hoping September. So.
Wow, perfect. Right in time for the SOND Christmas market. So
yeah, exactly, Matt.
Phenomenal. To Marissa, to everyone else watching at home, thank you so much. We really appreciate you all signing in and watching along. Thank you again, Shane. I really appreciate it. And to everyone at home, I hope you've enjoyed these whiskeys. Until next month, we have a fantastic takeover coming down the line to keep an eye out on your inboxes for those. For anyone that is subscribed, you do have an email. It's dropping in 2 minutes, 1 minute now. That will give you a discount individually for all of these whiskeys, or all 3 if you want to buy them together. They are shipped anywhere around the world to your door where it is legal to do so. So keep an eye on the inbox, guys. And if you aren't signed up, why not? Jump on in. You're watching here along anyway. You get to talk to these fantastic people and drink along with us. Fantastic box comes once a month to enjoy these whiskeys. So again, thanks so much. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
See you.